Good morning. Welcome again to the next lesson on still on poetry. My name is Md.Victorine. Thank you. So as you can look from the board, the next lesson we're going to talk about is what is the poem about. So initially we began with the persona, but now we're going to go deeper and what is the poem about. So if you look at the board, when you're being asked what the poem is about, essentially the examiner wants to see, have you understood what the persona is talking about? Have you understood what the poet wants to communicate to you as the reader? So it's very important for you to understand what a poem is about when you're reading. And that's why I began with persona, because once you get the persona, then you begin to understand the persona's experience or the state of mind or whatever it is that he wants to communicate to you as the reader. So from the definition there, you see, for you to understand poetry, you must first understand how to read poetry. And the first thing, before you do anything when reading a poem, always check out the title. The title of the poem will always give some image or some association to start with, or it can give you a clue to what the poem is talking about. So once you look at the title and internalize it and understand what the title is talking about, then you begin to understand the poem better. Sometimes you find learners reading a poem without even bothering to look at the title, and yet maybe the clue to understand the poem is there in the title. So the first thing you do, always look at the title of the poem. The next thing, when you're reading the poem, read the first reading all the way to the end. And then in the second reading, try to place full stop where you think there's a complete sentence. Because usually poetry is normally broken down. If it's a sentence, it can be broken down into like 3 lines in a stanza. So if you read stopping at the end of the line, you may not really understand the poem. So train yourself to try and read the poem in the second reading the way you read a novel or the way you read a short story. Try to form a complete sentence if you can, if the poem allows. And this way, the poem will be easier to understand. But if you keep on reading and ending at the end of the line, then begin afresh, and then not trying to construct a complete thought, then becomes harder for you to understand. So after placing the full stop, now the last reading, read to and then stop only when you see a full stop for you to understand the poem. And then the second thing, try to look at the persona or the point of view or the personality of the speaker that is addressing whatever is in the poem. And then the next, try to see the theme that the poet wants to address or the persona brings out in the poem. And one thing most young people normally suffer from, they always assume that all poems have a deeper meaning. Sometimes when you have a poem, what you see is what you get. There's no deeper meaning. You are allowed to take it literally and maybe apply it somewhere else. But in most cases, most of the poems you normally get in your revision book, there's not that much deeper meaning. So don't overthink it or don't try to see things which are not there. Just really understand and see what the poem is trying to ask you. Remember, when it comes to the question, what is the poem about? You can do it in 2 ways, just the way I taught you in persona. One, you can just simply paraphrase what the whole poem is talking about. When you say paraphrase, we mean write the poem in your own words and then try to summarize a few words. For example, if it's a long poem, summarize in about maybe 3 or 4 sentences to make people understand what the poem is talking about. Try to imagine a Form 1 coming to ask you, or your sibling trying to ask you, what are you reading? You then tell them the poem. Then they ask you, what is the poem about? You can't paraphrase, you can't use the words of the poem exactly the way it is. It may be challenging. So to make it easier for people to understand you, try to break down the poem into your own words. Then the second way in which you can do it, if you don't mind, you can also do it you can also go the thematic way, whereby you give the theme of the poem and then proceed to explain that theme in detail. So you can do the paraphrase way, or you can simply go the thematic way. So either way is still correct because you're still doing the same thing. So you can choose to use the one which is comfortable for you. So again, we'll use the same poem we did for persona. And the poem goes, when you left without a word, my heart wept, not so much for lost love and touch, but more for the blinkers which I wore. For so long, for so late did I worship such an ingrate. If you look at this poem, it has about 3 sentences. So you can't say, when you're reading it on your own, you can't read it like, when you left without a word, my heart wept. It becomes nonsensical. But when you're reading, try to put a full stop where you think there's a full stop. For example, if I look at this poem, I can read, when you left without a word, my heart wept, not so much for lost love and touch, but more for the blinkers which I wore. That's the first sentence. Put a full stop there. For so long, for so late, did I worship such an ingrate. That's another sentence with a question mark. So there are 2 sentences in this poem. So when you're reading for the purpose of understanding the poem, now don't stop at the end of the line, but stop where you feel there's a full stop. it will become easy for you to understand the poem. So when they ask you what is this poem about, there are two ways which you can do it. So you can begin with the paraphrase. The poem is about a lover who has been jilted or been dumped, and now he or she is hurting, not because not so much of the losing the person, but the regret of not having seen the red flags earlier, that this person they're dealing with is dishonest. Because it says, for so long, for so late, they worship such an ingrate. So meaning they're angry at themselves because they should have seen the red flags, that this person is not a good person, this person is an ingrate. But for so long they continue worshipping them. For so late means even after they begin to feel like something is wrong, they still continue the relationship knowing that it's not going anywhere. So when you're ready what the poem is about, just paraphrase it. Okay? The poem is about a lover who has been jilted or dumped and is angry at him or herself for not having seen the red flag earlier, that the person was dishonest and having allowed themselves to stay in that relationship longer than they should have. So that's the example you can use in answering the question. Alternatively, you can just go simply talk about the theme of that poem. So the poem is just talking about lost love or a broken relationship and the experience of the persona, what the kind of mind space in which he or she is in, or the kind of feelings he is going through after having been left by the lover. So you can you can write there lost love or a broken relationship, and then say the persona is a jilted lover who is hurt by the fact that he was so blind in love that he didn't see through that the lover was dishonest. And if you go back at the poem, even the title there that we have there at the top is the word blind. So even the word blind should give you a clue what the persona is going through. He was blinded by love to the point that he never saw the red flags, or he never saw the person he was dealing with was not a good person. So it's very important for you to always look at the title of the poem. Okay? The word blind there means the person was blinded by love, that they didn't see the person was not good for them. And then you proceed to read the poem. So you relate the title and what the persona is going through. In that way, it becomes easy for you to understand what the poem is about. So remember, you can do it in two ways. Paraphrase the whole poem. Every stanza must be accounted for. And then alternatively, you can just write the theme you derive from the poem and then go simply straight to explaining how you arrive at that theme. So either way, you're still talking about what the poem is about. You're paraphrasing or you're summarizing, you're condensing it to a theme. And then that way it becomes easy for you to understand what the poem is about. So for practice, I'll give you another poem. So we have argument with God. My child was struggling for life in hospital, and I, worried, tense and tired, sat in silent prayer. In violent silence, argue with my God. God, I said, why do you allow him to suffer so? Why him all the time? Why? God was silent. Not a word from him. Not a word. Even the title from the poem, which is Argument with God, already tells you that in the poem, somebody is communicating with God. So when you ask what the poem is about, so you can simply explain by paraphrasing the whole poem. So the poem is about a parent who has a sick child in hospital. He's worried and anxious and is praying to God to spare the child suffering. He begins to lament why it's only the child who suffers, not any other child. But God does not seem to respond. So in this case, you will summarize what all the poem is talking about from the first line to the last line. That's how you do it when it comes to writing what the poem is about. Or you can simply go with the poem is about sickness, a child is in hospital and how the parent is lamenting. Why my child? Why him all the time? So all those feelings that the persona is going through must be captured in the poem. Okay? Then lastly, we have an example of a poem, and this one you will do on your own. Try to read, try to look at the choice of words of the persona, try to look at even the title to understand what the poem is about, and then try to come up with what the poem is about, preferably even the persona. Persona and what the poem is about, they're normally related because what the poem is about is simply a summary of the persona and his experience as explained in the poem. So I read this one. Goodbye, an ode to alcohol. The queasy feeling in my stomach, the pounding in my head, the only thoughts in my mind were wishing I was dead. My forehead covered in cold sweats, my body shakes beyond control, the endless aching in my bones as you consume my very soul. The minutes turned into hours, the hours turned into days. Suddenly, every moment that I ever lived was just a smoke-filled haze. As I watched my body waste away and my life slowly coming to an end, I realized that I was wrong you are the devil and not my friend. So that's a very good example of a poem. Try to read it and understand it, and try to see if you can identify the persona and also identify what the poem is about. With those few remarks, I wish you all the best as you study on your own. Thank you.